Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Backroad Star. How's everyone's week going? Tomorrow's Friday. Yay! And for those of us here in the U.S., happy Memorial Day weekend. Has everybody got plans? I'm grinning ear to ear tonight because we are finally getting some much needed rain where I live, although the timing may not be ideal for wheat harvest. So the windows are open again. I've got one of my favorite hoodies on again. And tonight I'm just drinking a plain hot coffee. So before we get started tonight, remember, if you found your way here, trust there's a reason. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And if these conversations speak to you, I would really appreciate your likes, the comments, and subscribe so more people can find our little corner of the internet. This channel is a space for honest conversations, a safe place to finally say things out loud. No gurus, no pretending, no masks, just real and authentic conversations. So, what if the chaos you are feeling right now is not failure? What if it is the sound of survival finally breaking you open? What if the exhaustion, the confusion, the emotional waves are not signs you're broken, but signs that something inside of you is finally trying to be heard? What if the hardest part of growth is realizing how much pain you were carrying all along? Tonight, we're talking about one of the hardest truths about growth, that becoming whole is not going to be linear. Because self-awareness does not always feel peaceful at first. Sometimes it feels like your entire inner world is quietly unraveling before it learns how to rebuild. I've always believed change is growth, even if the only thing you did today was get up off your knees. And maybe that is what this journey really is to me. Not waking up one day suddenly untouched by pain, but slowly learning how to rise differently each time life has knocked me down. Because growth does not always look beautiful while it's happening. Sometimes it looks ugly, it's messy, it's exhausting. Sometimes it looks like grief. Sometimes it looks like finally becoming honest about what really hurt you, what really took your worth away, and maybe becoming whole once again. Maybe becoming whole first requires us to stop pretending we were never wounded in the first place. By the end of the episode, I hope that you understand why growth comes in waves, why old wounds sometimes return, why slowing down can feel terrifying after years of surviving, and why emotional exhaustion does not mean you're weak. We're going to talk about why awareness can feel overwhelming at first, why so many people think they are falling when they are actually beginning to just wake up, and why revisiting pain does not mean you're moving backwards. Because maybe this journey is not about becoming someone new. Maybe it is about learning who you were before survival became your identity. I hope tonight you will stop judging yourself for the waves that you're experiencing, for the waves you are still learning how to survive. Because sometimes those waves are the growth, and that's where it begins. The moment we finally stop running from ourselves, hiding at work, running from relationships, running from our souls. There was a time in my life when I truly thought I was, quite frankly, losing my mind. 2 years ago, someone walked into my life and changed me forever. And when he left, something inside me unraveled. But the truth is, he did not break me. He revealed the parts of me that were already wounded, the parts I had spent my entire life outrunning. For years, decades, I raised children. I worked. Sometimes I worked 2 or 3 jobs. I handled crisis after crisis. I took care of everyone else. And somewhere inside of all that, I became incredibly good at never slowing down long enough to hear myself, to feel. Hyper-independence became an identity for me. I told myself I did not need anyone, that I was fine, that I was strong. But survival mode and healing are not the same. And then love just cracked me open. At the exact moment I was finally standing still long enough to hear myself. And like so many stories, and then he left. It felt like every wall I had spent decades building collapsed in all at once. He left. He was my best friend. He was the only person I had ever opened up to. I didn't just let him come behind the walls. I was knocking them down for him because I was safe. I grieved that relationship, yes, but I also grieved the version of me that existed inside of it. Because for the first time in my life, I had let someone get close enough to see the real me. And honestly, that terrified me afterward. I thought I was falling apart, but now I understand something differently. I was simply just unraveling. And maybe my waves were tsunamis because I had decades to unravel. But I know now unraveling is not the same thing as destruction. Sometimes the life you built while in survival mode has to fall apart so you can finally meet your soul underneath it. In my mind, I like to say, I had to tear down the life I built so I could start again and have the life God wanted me to build. And what I know now is this: growth is not linear. You grieve, you heal, you reopen wounds you thought were long buried. You fall apart again and again and again. But each time you return to yourself a little more honesty than before. And maybe healing is not becoming someone entirely new. Maybe it is finally allowing yourself to stop pretending you were never hurt in the first place. Social media has created this image of self-growth that looks beautiful at times. Morning routines and vision boards, Instagram-worthy curated peace, perfect boundaries, perfect relationships. But real transformation, sometimes it looks like crying in your car before work, or getting home from work and not being able to stop crying, not wanting your son to see you, so you go walking for 14 miles, come home at 1 a.m., take a shower, and go to bed, just to get up and cry again in the shower. Sometimes it looks like emotional exhaustion. Sometimes it looks like realizing you do not even know who you are without survival mode running your whole life. Sometimes transformation feels disorienting before it feels freeing. And I think many people quietly feel ashamed of that. Why do we believe growth should make us emotionally flawless? More emotionally put together? More peaceful? Less affected by pain? But this is self-awareness and not a performance. It is honesty between you and your soul, your God, and your Creator. What if the chaos you are feeling right now is not failure? What if this is the sound of that survival finally breaking open for you? One of the hardest parts of this journey for me was realizing it was not going to go in a straight line. I could not go backwards. I could not Return to default settings. I thought self-awareness would feel like a staircase. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Probably a good time to mention I was an accountant and controller for over 20 years. Of course, I was going to make a list and expect it to work out. Check it off one by one. Understand the wound. Check. Learn the lesson. Check. Move on forever. Never think of it again. Check, check. But growth does not move like a staircase. It moves like waves. Some days you feel peace you've never felt before. Then suddenly a memory returns. A trigger resurfaces. Grief hits you out of nowhere. Anger resurfaces. And a fear starts to strangle you. And you think, I thought I've worked through all this. But revisiting pain does not mean you failed. Sometimes growth happens in layers. You revisit old wounds with new awareness, new boundaries, new compassion, new understanding. And that matters. Growth is not learning how to avoid the waves. It is learning how to stop drowning every time one comes. Some wounds do not leave all at once. Sometimes they leave in breaths. So, each Saturday, I'll be creating some guided workshops and downloadable reflection pages you can use privately. Journaling prompts, grounding exercises, reflection questions, nervous system check-ins, and simple practices to help you reconnect with yourself between episodes. No pressure, no performance, just space to breathe, space to simply sit with yourself. And if all you do is click the PDF and read through it, that's fine. Some things might work for you, some things won't. But I'm going to offer all of them because some helped me, some helped my friends. And this is not going to be easy. I wish in the beginning I had had a safe person to go to. I wish in the beginning I knew how rough it was going to be at times. Patience will be needed. I've never been one for patience. I can't wait to see the friends and family in the comments say, she's not a patient person. Well, I've learned patience in the last 2 years. Time and patience and faith. That's what we have. I remember sitting in meetings while my entire inner world felt like it was collapsing, and nobody around me had any idea. I was functioning, working, smiling, having conversations, showing up. Then all of a sudden, I was running to the bathroom, bawling my eyes out, crying so hard I couldn't catch my breath. I don't think I've done that since I was a child, but when it started, I couldn't stop it. Meanwhile, internally, it felt like every wall I had built inside myself was starting to not just crack open. It was being blown apart. There were days I felt emotionally raw for absolutely no reason I could explain. Every song triggered me. Every song triggered me. They triggered memories. Places triggered emotions. Silence became uncomfortable. Rest became uncomfortable. Even slowing down became uncomfortable. Because when you spend years surviving, stillness can feel just terrifying. Silence starts sounding louder than chaos. And honestly, there were moments I truly thought I was falling apart. But now I think something else was happening. I think the version of me built entirely around survival, that little girl with pigtails, that teenager with an attitude, that young woman who just kept trying to pick herself up off the floor, could no longer hold everything that I had buried beneath it. I also think self-awareness can feel incredibly lonely sometimes because growth changes your relationship with yourself. So sometimes it changes your relationship with other people too. You start seeing patterns. You start seeing masks. You start seeing when people please because you were a master of it. Emotional exhaustion, the ways you abandoned yourself just to feel accepted. And sometimes during the process, you become quieter, more reflective, more protective of your peace. Not because you think you are better than anyone else, but because your nervous system is tired and unraveling it has stretched it thin. And I think many people quietly grieve the version of themselves that survived for so long on autopilot. It's familiar, even when it hurts. And who might you become if that survival was no longer running your life? Have you ever thought, what moment in time were you taught that survival was a part of you now? If you are in a season where this journey feels messy, overwhelming, exhausting, please hear me when I say this. You are not failing because old wounds still hurt sometimes. You are not broken because you still struggle. And you are not weak because growth feels hard. Sometimes transformation feels like falling apart because the version of you built around survival can no longer carry what your soul is trying to release. And maybe that is not destruction. I think it's transformation. Trust takes time. Your nervous system takes time. Your heart will take time. And then in the end, your mind will take time to believe it's finally safe. And maybe one of the most important things we can learn during this process is how to stop hating ourselves for just being human. Grace is accountability without self-hatred. And self-awareness without grace, it becomes punishment. So slowly, very slowly, I started realizing this journey was not trying to destroy me. God was trying to help me find myself. He was trying to help me find all the pieces of my soul that I had left on spans of time and in so many places, to get me to the part of me that existed before survival took over, before the fear became normal, before my masks became my identity, before silence became my safety. And maybe growth is not becoming someone new. Maybe it is finally meeting the version of yourself that existed underneath survival all along. Maybe returning to ourselves takes longer than we expected because we were never meant to rush our way into this. And we're not going to be able to rush our way through it. One breath, one wave, one moment at a time. Take a deep breath. Concentrate on just this moment. You are not behind. You are not failing. You're becoming aware. And if no one's told you lately, I believe in you. I believe in you.